Donald Trump had live on air what must have been a brain malfunction, because I think he started playing a game with himself. That sounds weird. Where he was trying to see how many times he could use the phrase N-word in 1 minute. You'll see what I mean there. Not the actual word, but the phrase N-word. Of course, he uses it all the time to talk about nuclear and thinks it's the funniest thing in the world to say the N-word, talking about nuclear. But then he started saying, you know, we're not supposed to say the N-word or the N-word, that N-word, the actual N-word or the other N-word. Very strange. And you can see this Fox News host was visibly confused about what was going on.
But Ukraine is a much smaller military, you know, you have to remember.
What?
And now they're using tactics, and don't forget those tactics can get a lot worse. And importantly, you know, I call it the N-word, the nuclear word. People get a little angry when I say that. They said, don't get angry. It's the biggest threat in the world today.
Do you think he uses him? Do you think there's a story that Putin wanted to use him and his inner circle stopped it? Do you think Putin would use nuclear weapons?
Well, I don't think he'll stand for losing. So in some form, maybe limited form, and but to think we're even having this conversation. You know, you never mentioned the N-word, either one, okay? You never mentioned the N-word or the N-word. The nuclear N-word never was supposed to be mentioned. Now I'm reading every day, as an example today, I'm reading somewhere that there's at least a 40% chance that he'll use nuclear weapons. How the hell did this happen? And it's because of the United States.
So it's because of the United States. Please. Wow, I think it was 5 times he was able to fit that in there, and no one thinks that's as amusing as he does, but whatever. I will say that shows you how deep his political analysis is about this conflict. Anytime he's asked about it, and Brian Kilmeade's trying to be serious, Mr. Former President, we heard that, you know, Putin is threatening this. Do you think he'll actually use it? And Trump's response is, the N-word. The actual N-word, and you got the other N-word. You got all the N-words. You can't use any of the N-words because it's crazy. That's all we got as far as political analysis for a former president is just so proud of his usage of that word. Yes, sometimes, buddy, 2 words start with the same letter, so you could apply them both to a commonly used phrase. Very strange. But what is this all in relation to? We've talked a good bit about how Vladimir Putin has been threatening nuclear war a lot and reminding people we have the capability and blah, 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 blah. And these weird people, mostly on the right, but some on the left as well, pretending like it's the United States provoking Putin into that. What are we talking about? The United States has been wrong many times in the past. This time they're actually doing the right thing. I don't know what you're doing with your life if you think that, if you think not that. And so Trump, you heard at the end there, say the same thing. You know, it's the United States provoking that nuclear war. Well, it's taken another step forward where Russia is now going around and calling Western countries and saying, listen, we have evidence. They don't provide the evidence, of course, but we have evidence that Ukraine is planning, they're plotting to use dirty bombs. And a dirty bomb is you lace a normal bomb with radioactive material, making it much more damaging and dangerous. And so Putin is trying to say Ukraine is planning on using these against us. And you can probably already suspect that what the plan behind the scenes from Russia is likely going to be with this is make these unsubstantiated claims as a false justification to then escalate on their side militarily, possibly to some sort of nuclear action. Because if you can point and say, Ukraine's about to use dirty bombs, that's why we had to use our own dirty bombs or our own nuclear weapons, it seems more justified from your perspective with the propaganda you're spreading. So very, very scary. A little bit on that here. First, it was about blowing up a dam. Now it's about unleashing a dirty bomb. A sudden flurry of Russian accusations about supposed Ukrainian plans has fueled new Western fears that President Vladimir Putin might be planning his own escalation to change the course of a war that reached 8 months Monday and has not been going his way. Putin's embattled defense chief was busy this weekend making phone calls to Kyiv's closest allies to voice Moscow's latest evidence-free allegations. This individual warned defense officials in France, Turkey, Britain, and the United States that Ukraine was preparing a provocation and the use of what he termed a dirty bomb. The situation is steadily trending toward a further uncontrolled escalation, he warned in one of the calls without elaborating. So he's saying we're about to experience completely uncontrolled escalation based on claims that you're not providing evidence for. So it just sounds like you're preparing yourself to escalate the situation. And it's something that we've seen step by step. As Putin gets more desperate, he seems to be more willing to consider very escalatory and dangerous responses. Here is one of the commanders in Ukraine talking about, we should be very worried about Putin using nuclear weapons.
Colonel General Alexander Syrski.
How worried are you? How worried should all of us be about Putin's nuclear threats?
I must agree with you that we are and should be worried, and I do believe that such a threat really exists, and we have to take it into account.
Syrski.
Yeah, the United States is concerned, Ukraine is concerned, all these countries are concerned, I think rightfully so. Now, this is the point in the war where any considerations about how we respond, how Ukraine responds, etc., is going to be behind closed doors. We're not going to get information about what the Biden administration is considering as far as their response if Putin uses nuclear weapons. But it's a scary prospect nonetheless. And so we're just going to have to wait and see how this plays out. Again, I think there's still a good chance that Putin is bluffing on all of this, that he sees the losses he's taking and wants to just make as much noise to see if he can get any movement and get the United States to back off or Ukraine to back off, which I don't think they will do, but he could still be bluffing. The unfortunate thing about nuclear war is you can't, it's not really one of the situations you want to roll the dice on. So it's very wild that that's the moment and the discussion that we're even having. And so far, I think the Biden administration has been doing a pretty good job of handling this rhetorically as well as actually from a policy perspective. So we'll continue taking a look at that each step of the way.